Well, welcome everyone to the Dallas Personal Robotics Group Robot Builders Night Virtual for April 23. The agenda will be the usual. We'll go through a few updates from the group, and then anyone who's got to update the robot or whatever they want to show or demo, or questions, and then we'll throw it open for open mic. So updates for DPRG, a reminder of the new monthly meeting time for Saturday. That's this coming Saturday at 10 a.m., April 27th at the Dallas Makerspace. Brady Pampling will present PCB design, how to get 5 boards for $10. We'll have pizza for lunch. I'm a little worried actually, because I posted this on Facebook and this meeting, and Facebook said, "Oh, would you like to turn this into an into an event?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, why not?" And then it said, "Who would you like to invite?" Well, DPRG has got 730 or 750 followers, so I said, "Invite them all."
Did you order enough pizza?
Well, that's what I'm worried about, whether the room will even be big enough. And then Allcon, which is a sort of like a cosplay and all kinds of conferences, sort of like a multi-conference group here in Dallas, and we've exhibited at one of their shows in the past. They posted on their channel saying, "Hey, we like the DPRG. They used to exhibit at our events, and here's what they just posted if you're interested in PCB design." So, okay, we'll see. Okay, so that's this Saturday. In other news, the new email server is live. I've got 49 members migrated. I now have an email list of I think 91 emails. So just got a new block of emails of people to invite. But I've been sending out welcome messages and asking if people have received them, and got a certain number of replies, but not nearly complete. So I'm trying to close the loop on here to both get people added to the list and then make sure they can actually receive it. And one of the challenges seems to be that email may be going into spam folders. So I encourage you to look in your spam folder and see if there's email from DPRG list at googlegroups.com, and maybe do whatever you have to do to make it not be spam. This meeting, Robot Builders Night Virtual, there'll be a new meeting link next time. We're going to switch over to our own DPRG Google Workspace for recording, or for holding the meeting, I should say. So look on the website for this link.
Paul, is that for Saturday? Is that going to start Saturday or next?
Good question, Doug. What do you think we should do?
Well, I'd say let's give it a shot. I mean, it might be a little bit of us bouncing around, but you know.
Okay, I'm up for trying it. Sure.
Okay, so I'm gonna update the web page right now, so everybody, all they have to do is just go do it.
Okay, so this link will not be good for Saturday, Doug. Let me make a new meeting, a new meeting for Saturday, because this is off of the Google Calendar, and it's that repeating. It's a repeating calendar event that I set up that we have yet to figure out how to share.
Well, I'm not. I think once you create it, it's kind of like there forever. but we can check that out later. Okay, so we're not sure, but for Robot Builders Night Virtual for sure next week.
Yeah.
Okay, we got that. Okay, so just guys look at the website because I will coordinate with Paul and keep it up to date. Okay.
Thanks, Doug.
Paul, are you going to be recording Saturday's meeting?
Yes.
We'll try.
Okay, I won't be able to make it. So
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Pat.
We'll give it our best shot. Carl is out of town and he's our master recorder. So we'll do our best. And I think I'm recording tonight, and it looks like it's working and doesn't have me muted, unlike the last time I tried recording. So hopefully that will work out.
I've got one thing, Paul.
Yep.
There's an alien meeting.
I know. I saw that as I was like reading that. I was like, oh.
I'm not a spelling major, but
Thank you, Pat. Appreciate your contribution. Okay. Any other questions, comments, shout outs from the peanut gallery? Nope. Okay. Then let me unshare and let's get a list going. So who's got something to share or show or ask?
I've been working on the ESP now to work with John's watch.
Yeah, great.
And I was going to demo my four corner. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Okay. Okay. Anyone else besides Mike?
Well, I got Pie Dog together there, which you already showed everybody, Pie Dog.
Well, let's have a look at your Pie Dog and see if it'll commit suicide for us, Doug.
Thanks a lot.
I hope it doesn't.
I do have a question about SSH. Did you have any trouble SSH into that?
No.
Are you on a Pi 4 with what's
gigs.
the new system? It's not Buster, is it?
Okay, so let's talk about that.
Okay.
Anyone else got anything? If not, we'll kick it off with Mike. You got it.
Yeah, well, I've been working with, been distracting myself from this competition by playing with the universal robot controller and making it my own. And I showed a little bit, last time, but here's the controller right here, and sort of have the battery hanging off of it. So it's working pretty good. And, but I was having really issues trying to find a board, ESP32 board that would communicate with it into my ROS serial port. It was really crazy. Like this one here was a small S3 from Seed, and this is my favorite one I wanted to use. And in Python, I couldn't really get the serial port to work the way I wanted it to, using just the USB as a serial port. And I switched to C, and the serial port worked great. And then I tried to use the ESP Now through the antenna, and it was intermittent with the watch. So I said, okay, something's wrong with the timing on this thing, and it's just not doing a good thing, or something's going on. So I said, okay. And then I tried this board here, which is really cool. It's a C6 ESP Now, and it worked pretty good when I used the UART interface to hook up to the Pi 4 to hook up with ROS, and it was working really good. No, it wasn't. That was the problem. It's ESP Now worked really good communicating with the watch, but for some reason, I couldn't send serial packets to this thing reliably. It was, I could use it from like the monitor programs and stuff, the terminal programs, and I could, in Arduino and stuff, and I could, send packets. And one of the things I have is I set the robot voltage on here, which is just to test the one way. And then when this switches modes, then it receives the mode that it switched to, and it received packets really well, and it would send them, but I couldn't send from. I'm getting confused here, or I'm confusing everybody. Like terminal monitors would work really well when I hook up to this on a PC, Windows, on Linux. But when I plug it into the Pi, well, a terminal monitor works on that too. But when I tried to use the serial interface in ROS, it just wouldn't work. And it works with all my other boards. So I spent a long time trying to figure that out, or just beat my head against it. So it's out. So I ended up with another board, which is an S2 generic board. I don't have a nice way to connect it to my Pi right now, but this is it right here, and it works great. Yeah, so serial port works good, ESP works good, works good. I can get two-way communications to and from the watch, into and from my ROS code. So I was just amazed. Excuse me. I'm gonna go. That, I had 3 boards and one of them worked. I mean, they all worked in different ways, but one of them did everything. So I was, oh well, that was a trial and tribulation, and it was frustrating, but I think I got it to a point where I have something to work. I hope to go back to this and try to figure out what's wrong, but it's low on my priority because I got something that works.
On that board, does it have an option for, built-in antenna versus external antenna?
No.
This one only has external.
Oh, it does. Okay. Yeah. Usually they have like a little resistor that you can, it's basically a 0 ohm resistor that goes to the, the built-in antenna versus the other side.
Yeah. This one doesn't have an internal antenna. I'm using the same one. What problems are you having with ESP now with it? I haven't done any like industrial testing on it yet, but I have no issues with the ESP now comms between my display and that.
Yeah, so I figured if I had 2 of them, probably the other one would work because it's just a timing issue. Like, excuse me. Oh, allergies are bad here. But when I switch modes on the watch, I send a packet out, and it would receive pieces of the packet, and sometimes it would receive the whole packet, and sometimes it just received parts of the packet. And
how big is the packet?
Huh?
How big is the packet?
Less than 250 bytes, right?
Yeah.
It works on everything. It works on the other boards, but it's just very small. Yeah, just says,
like I'm sending 69 byte packets, and
right.
I don't have any issues getting those here. I'm having an issue sending it over the serial port from that device to my other device. But in terms of the ESP now stuff, that's working fine. Which is
so I'm guessing that this thing has a defect that has a oscillator that's off just a little bit. That's what my guess is, because it's intermittent and erratic about what it receives.
Hey, John, I can't remember. Does ESP now have an RSSI signal that you can check, the receive signal strength indicator?
Well, you have a double, you have to create a WLAN interface, so you can ask that for it.
Yeah, I guess I could check that. But it just doesn't work. So, and there's nothing you can do on this board to fix it. So,
Yeah, that's. I'm thinking you might have some bad hardware because, like I said, I've got the exact same board and I haven't had any issues with it yet.
yeah,
I
I should
like I
buy
said,
another one. I really like this form factor.
Yeah, I mean they're only like $6 or something, so
Yeah.
it's not like they're expensive.
All right, talk me into it all.
But if I understood you right, Mike, the majority of the problems had to do with communication on from the ESP Now receiver to the ROS computer. Is that correct?
That was with this board here. It when I was looking into it, it says, hey, I use the exact same snippet of code on all the other RP2040 boards I have. And when I use it on this board, it would receive, but it wouldn't send. And then when I close my program out, Control C from ROS, then everything out that I was been trying to transmit would come out as one big blob. And when I looked into it, the difference, I was looking at the hardware control signals like RTS, CTS and stuff. Hardware mode is turned off, it's disabled. But the difference between when I was trying to connect to one of the other boards and this board was the CTS line was low on this board here. But the hardware, disabling hardware should have ignored that, but it wasn't or something. And on the circuit board, it's just a floating pin. So not a lot I could do with it. So I was thinking, oh, I could just change it low to high and maybe it'll work. But then I looked around and looked at the schematic and it was a floating pin. Oh, so I got a solution. Yeah. Yeah, it was a lot of trial and error on my part.
Weird.
And I was having trouble. I got things working in C. It was really strange. Like on this particular board, I could not find a firmware for MicroPython, so I tried to use CircuitPython. Yeah, it worked, but it just wasn't compatible with everything. So, I mean, it wasn't compatible with the download for software and everything. Like we're trying to use the R shell in the
No, our shell doesn't work with CircuitPython at all.
Right. So then I switched to C and then things were working again. So just a lot of stuff going on. I have my notebook full of this crap. It's like,
So question for John. I'm looking at the telemetry.py that runs on the URC peer, and just sort of Mike's question made me ask myself, how does the threading work in terms of one thread that can be sending data serial to the ROS device versus simultaneously another thread getting data, or is it serialized? How does that work?
There's no threading. It's the on the URC peer, which is like this device here. It's basically running a tight loop. If you look at the code in main.py, it basically right at the very bottom it says while true RC update, and RC update basically checks to see have we gotten a command from the robot, which is the non-ESP32 processor that you have it connected to, and if so, then read it and send it over ESP Now. And we register when we create robot comms, we register a callback as part of that register telemetry callback up on line 11. And so when it gets something over ESP Now, it will call that function with the packet that it gets. So, and that happens as a part of the, I assume it's part of the interrupt system, but I suspect it's just sent on the callback is sent on a, MicroPython has something called machine.schedule or something.schedule. I use it as well in the touch manager and stuff. But it basically is a way to schedule a call to happen sort of asynchronously. It's not on a different thread, it's on the main thread, but it's sort of kind of is on a different thread because it's kind of like on an interrupt, but it's not a thread like as in, a Python thread. Think of it like an interrupt.
Yeah. And I got a question for John too.
Mhm.
I'm trying to use the USB-C port as the serial interface to my Pi.
Oh, yeah,
I was having lots of trouble with Python, but it works.
Yeah,
in C.
you're gonna have a problem with that because you're using, if you're using, that's the console. So if you call print anywhere, that goes out there. So you have to make sure that you don't call print anywhere, and you can't be running R shell when your thing is running because that won't work either. So this thing, if you look at mine, I've got these two little green wires, and those are connected to the UART, a UART on the ESP32. And the bottom two pins are RX and TX. And so you can create that's basically UART1 and pin 43 and 44. And so if you look at the main.py and URC that's the serial port that I use. I wouldn't use the USB port as a serial port. It just really complicates things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So since I've switched to C coding instead of Python, now I can use this port and it fits my architecture that I'm developing.
And that's fine. That's nothing wrong with that.
Right. So
yeah. So the thing, the Arduino, assuming you're using Arduino or something like that to program it basically reflashes the chip every time you make a change.
Right.
So you're not you're not using R shell or something like that to copy files over or whatever.
It's really simple. The only thing that this particular device here is it's a bridge between ESP now and the serial port. It just
exactly.
I got something, repeat it. Got something, repeat it.
Yeah,
so
that's exactly what it is.
It doesn't do much. And the C version of ESP now works. So I was happy with it. Yeah.
Cool.
And then the other thing, hold on a second. Yeah, so I have a little a small demo with my I gotta do some R shell commands to bring it up.
This is nice that you've got your own testing field right in your lab there. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, so I set it up here. See if I can show it sort of. Guess I gotta go far away. Trying to figure out how to do the computer. Okay, so here's the robot, and so I just scaled the four corner to go to the four corners of of this thing here. And so if right now I'm using this, I hope to switch over to the watch, and then
Uh-oh.
I can feel the demos coming up and getting them.
Yeah, every time Mike starts to do a demo, he kind of freezes, and then he ends up having to leave the conference and rejoin.
it threw an exception or has a coding error. I didn't know I changed. All right, so it's not happening right this moment.
we can come back to you, Mike.
Okay.
If I could just follow up with John on the question I was asking about how the simultaneous threading works, and I see, John, where you if there's a read,
Yeah.
I see it. Where are you?
From the robot, line 19.
Right. So this could return a partial string of what the robot wants to send, right?
Yeah. So I'm changing that in mine anyway, to use read line instead of read. And I'm gonna send a line feed character at the end.
Okay.
I'm still having weird issues with this, so I'm kind of debugging this to try and figure out what's going on. But because I'm not getting all of the bytes on my STM32 that I'm sending from the ESP32. So I'm trying to, I've got my logic analyzer hooked up to it right now, and I'm going to see if I can figure out why, like, is MicroPython just not getting all the bytes, or are the bytes actually getting sent, or what's going on?
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to figure that out.
Yeah.
But yeah, so basically that's from the robot to the URC side, and then the other side is using the callback, which is registered in the init function of robot comms.
Right. And that will just deal with things on a packet basis and write the whole packet. So,
yeah, and that deals with stuff coming from the URC to the robot.
Yeah. Good. Thanks. The read line answers my question. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because I had the same problem, and you have to break it up. I mean, you can do that, but if you're going to have random length packets, you either have to have a terminator or you have to have a length byte that says how long it is.
Right. But then if you use read line, you also can't send binary data.
Yeah. So if you're going to do that, then use packets that have a length byte.
Yeah. Right. Okay, cool. Doug, I think you were, I saw you setting up PyDog there.
Let me get myself unmuted here. I'm gonna.
I got my demo.
Oh, did you get it working?
Yeah. But everyone's dropping in and out. It must be my computer.
I think it's
Let's
just
let
you.
Doug go. Let's Doug go through, and then we'll come back
Doug
to
do.
Mike.
Yeah.
You're muted. You're muted, Doug. Doug, you're muted. You're muted.
There. I got all these mice in front of me. I got to find the right one. I think I'm good now, right?
Right, you're good.
Okay, so if you pin my screen that has the PyDog in it, you'll be able to see better what's going on here. And boy, that screen, Microsoft is trying to take over. So over on this screen, you see I've got the PyDog, and he's ready to go through some of his stuff. For instance, I can do stand. And one thing you see is I've got all these wires attached. I want to talk about SSH when I'm done playing. And if you went to that documentation, you'll see he's got 15 things he can do plus sounds he can make. And then there's some other things too. That was sit. And let's try howling. Oh, that was pant. Sorry. You might not be able to hear that because he's not very loud and I don't have him by my speakers.
No, we can hear it.
Okay. So he can growl, he can pant, he can bark, he can snore, he can say, wahoo. And he can tell which direction sound comes from, and he actually can listen. He can't
Does
listen.
that work on your Pi Dog? Because I couldn't get sound detection to work on my Pi Dog.
I actually hadn't tried that. I downloaded the app on the phone, and the phone has voice recognition, but that's a function of the phone. And I haven't played with the voice or the sound distance thing yet.
Okay. Just curious.
Yeah, we finished getting this connected. So this is the app on the phone, and it's got a number of functions, and it's programmable, but I haven't investigated how to program any of those things yet. But I can make him lie down, supposedly. Come on, Pi Dog. Apparently, the connection for my phone is not as good as the connection on the thing. Whoa, the Pi just rebooted? Talk about demo bugs. But Pi just rebooted. Interesting.
Well, you probably still had the app running on your computer, right?
Yeah, it doesn't like both at the same time.
Right.
Yeah, okay. That makes sense. It actually says that in the documentation, which I didn't pay any attention to. Let's see. Disconnected. Connect. Start. Stand up. Yay. Right down. So that works. It has a limited number of the functions here, not all of the functions, because they only programmed in about 6 or 8 of them. But he does respond as much as I want him to, and that's that awkward leaning while he stands, which is dangerous. And at some point, I want to talk about SSH, because I used the new version of Raspberry Pi, and I have never been able to get it to SSH. And it also made it so that my VNC would not work. So I don't know if that's the new version or what. I'm thinking about going back to the old version.
When you say the new version, are you talking about Bookworm?
I don't think it's that new. Whatever the latest version of the Raspbian software is, I thought was something that started with it wasn't Debian. I have to admit, I should have prepared for this better. I wasn't planning on giving a speech because I figured you'd already told everybody everything.
I think the newest is Bookworm.
Interesting.
No, the newest is Bookworm.
Is
But
what?
you didn't have any trouble.
Say that again, Paul.
Bullseye is the one before Bookworm.
Yeah. And then before that was something else. And that's the something else before that was the one I've always used before.
Okay.
And I heard that Bullseye had some trouble that the other one didn't. So that's why I was willing to point the finger.
Well, I think at least when I got mine, the documentation said to use the legacy version.
Right.
Now, what are you using on this one?
I just gave the latest version of the Raspberry Pi software. So I'm probably going to go back to the legacy version and just reload all the software.
Let me ask you, the reason why I ask is because I had some glitches. My ultrasonic stopped working, and I had a few other things, but the ultrasonic was the one that bothered me the most.
Right.
The question I had, because and I had it working, but it stopped. So I don't know if it broke something or whether or not the programming got changed in a way that it didn't work. Are you using a 4 or a 3?
This is a 4.3 or a 4B. So it's the latest one before the 5.
Yeah, so you're using a 4.
Right.
Okay, I'm using a 3, so that might make a difference.
Yeah. I haven't had any trouble with the 4s until I loaded this latest version of the Raspbian.
Yeah.
I think that's what my problem is.
Okay, well, can you run LSB _release -A and let's get clear on exactly what version you're running.
Okay. Let me see if I can do that. LS ver _3. Is that what you said?
LSB _release
Oh,
-A.
LSB _release -A. Yeah, it didn't like that. Probably I bet there's a space between LS and V.
No, let me share my window and I'll show you what it should look like. So here's the command LSB _release
Oh, B like in,
-A. Yeah, B for boy.
I was doing V like in Victor. My ears are not what they used to be.
And it should say, what you want to have is have it say it's Debian bullseye.
Yes, it says bullseye.
Okay, so
Go
that's
back to
good.
the other screen. I don't know if that's legible.
So then what happens when you try and SSH into it?
It says access denied, even though I've triple checked the login name and the password. And apparently it's a pretty common thing according to the internet. It just doesn't say how to fix it. It just says, oh, well, just do this and you're in.
Let's see, do you have...
We have to waste a lot of time on tonight because I'm planning on showing up at the meeting Saturday and we can work on it then. No need for everybody to have to sit and watch me type in things.
Yeah.
Out of curiosity, you said this was a new install. Did you do the Raspberry Pi config to enable the SSH?
Yes. And VNC, neither one of which lets me in. And
Yeah, if you're running Bookworm, that would make sense on the VNC because Bookworm actually uses a different VNC.
Ah,
Yeah. But if SSH isn't working, that's kind of basic.
I know. So we can work it out when we come down to the meeting. We'll have it there. We can pound on it.
Okay. Hey, Doug.
Yeah.
Can you back him up a little bit and then make him go about 3 steps forward if you can?
Let me see. He used to move forward last time I tried.
Yeah.
The screen control doesn't have walking, but this one does. They get connected back in again.
Okay.
So he treats
I don't know if that was the wires you were dragging or not, but it looks
Yeah.
like he kind of curved to the side
Yeah.
there.
the video wire was dragging against the keyboard here.
Oh, okay.
And, he's also on a slope with slippery feet, so I expected him to kind of walk off to the left a bit.
I'm curious though, have you noticed whether he runs straight or not?
When I had him on the floor with just the app and no wires in, he
Yeah.
went pretty straight.
Okay.
I'm about to start working on my program for the contest for legged vehicles to see if I can make it to a spot.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That'd be
I
cool.
thought I'd bring mine to the makerspace and try it out on those floors there. Maybe we can try both of the rooms that we'll be in and see how straight it runs. Well, I haven't even tried running it for like 10 feet or whatever the specified distance is.
Right.
But
It's more than that.
Plus, we have to make it work under autonomous control, not under RC control.
Yeah.
yeah.
Speaking of which, that brings up a question I had when Mike was on the phone or the call. I've never competed, so I'm not 100% clear of the rules. I have this app, which I can turn things on and stuff, but I can't run the app, of course, while it's competing. But having the app to turn it on and turn it off is still acceptable in the rules?
Yeah, that'd be fine.
Okay.
I mean, we're going to watch your hands, though.
Yeah, I want to.
If he suddenly starts going really straight.
Yeah. All I'm going to do is say start the run, and then I put it down and let it do its deal. And I'm willing to let my code be inspected to see if there's any issues there too.
Yeah.
And Doug, I just posted a command in the chat window of a command you should run ps-ef pipe to grep SSH. And, you can post the response back, but you can see it shows that on my PyDog that it's running SSHD listening. And so anyway, you should see that.
Okay.
Okay.
So could this be the start of a new dog competition, like a dog track? You have.
Well, I'm anxious to get into the actual programming of it.
Is it safe to assume that you run Raspi config and enabled SSH?
Yes.
Okay.
So I went and opened up some and actually made a couple of programs just to test it, because in the latter section of the tutorials they have example programs. So I modified a couple of them and got it to actually run. Modified the code and got it to run. So I was quite pleased with that. So I haven't done one that actually makes it try and do the course.
That's interesting. It says grep. Oh, that's dot, not dash. Sorry. My eyes aren't what they used to be either.
Okay. Anyone else?
I had a question about Brady's
Ray.
presentation. Is it going to be kind of a hands-on thing, or are we downloading software to our laptops and
grep?
I'm sorry, what's the question?
Brady's
Brady's Pamplin's presentation.
Yeah.
No, it's just a presentation mode. So we won't be he does offer a live course, do it in a workshop kind of environment, but that runs longer than we typically would want to do in a monthly meeting.
Yeah.
So this will just be presentation. And it is based on a YouTube video that I watched, and it's it seems straightforward. It's oh wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Thank you.
Otherwise,
So I have a little a thing. I just got my telemetry piece working with this, so I'm pretty happy about that. So let me unpin that and present my. I'm just going to present this window. I think it's this one. Yeah. Okay. So you guys can see that?
Yep.
All right. So I've got my URC in my hand here. This is the console. If you look on my little video screen here, it's the console for the ESP32 on the the pier that's on the robot. So this is basically showing that, and so I'm going to click on. I've got my URC set up with RAWs with the mission, and I'm just going to click run, and it brings up the screen, and it comes up in paused mode as it does. And when I touch it, I get a command, and something crashed. No, okay. Demo bug. Hang on a sec.
But we see the commands. That's good.
Oh yeah. commands come through there, but let me just power cycle. Something happened with the STM32 that it wasn't happy. All right, let's try this again. So push it, boom, there we go. So now you can see I'm actually getting telemetry, although it's all fake, but I'm getting telemetry data from the STM32 at, 10 frames a second or whatever. So if I push it again, then it starts again, and then I push it and pause. So you can see I'm passing this JSON command with the mission name Wander, the type is mission status, and paused is either true or false. And so that when I send pause true, false, sorry, that means it's not paused, so it's running. And so it starts, the STM32 starts sending telemetry data over the serial port, telemetry data packets, and those are showing up on the ESP32 on his receive handler, and then that's getting sent via ESP now to the URC, where it displays on the screen. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, and you're using JSON. That's why you don't have to worry about binary data. Nice.
Yeah, I don't see any reason. I'm not sending big packets. I'm just sending information. So let me just stop presenting here, and let me bring up my thing here and switch to the right page. So this here, let me window this guy here. This is my note software, but so you can see this is kind of the idea of the kind of some of the different ideas for packets that I'm sending. But like this one here is an example of the kind of packet that I'm going to be sending from RAWs to, or actually this is from my rover, I think, because it's going to send heading and position and the GPS satellite count and the GPS satellite fix and the target position, the target name, which navigator I'm running, which state, all that stuff. So that's all going to get sent to here as it's running, kind of thing. So these are just some ideas that I've typed out for different kinds of JSON packets that I'm going to send, and they're all kind of small. I mean, they're all less than 150 bytes, so they'll fit well within the parameters of ESP now being a 250 byte packet.
Thank you.
That's good.
So I'm going to push this code to my repo tonight and with an update. So this will now be working code, although there's still a piece that you have to have. I have here, I'll share again with that window. I don't know if you guys can read this. The text is kind of small. But let me make the window a little bit smaller so it'll take up more of the screen at least. So you can see here, this is the program that's running on my STM32. So I'm basically, the idea is I have this 9-axis IMU from Adafruit, and I'm going to hook that up to the STM32 and then uncomment out these lines where I'm basically calling IMU update, and then I'm going to be sending the heading from the IMU rather than just 27 and get the telemetry data. But of course, it'll be getting more telemetry data than just this. But for RAWs, for my walker, I'm not going to be connecting to an STM32. I'm going to be connecting to a Raspberry Pi Zero, and I'll be running Smalltalk code on that to get the commands in JSON format and then send back the telemetry data over the serial port. But this is once again same concept. We've got a UART. In this case, it's on port 4 because that's which port it's hooked up to on this particular board. The thing that you have to make sure, and Mike, make sure that you do this when you create your UART, you have to set the read buffer or the RX buffer length to be big enough. Because if you don't do that, then it will only send partial packets. Like the default size is normally 64 bytes.
Yeah.
And that's the problem I was. Yeah, that's the problem I was running into, is that my read buff length, I wasn't setting it, so I was only getting 64 bytes, even though I'm doing a read line, and so that was where I was running into trouble. So once I added this and I just made it bigger than one packet, then I get the whole line and there's no issues. So yeah.
So the problem I had with my demo was I was watching the battery voltage being monitored on my robot on the watch, and I let the battery go too low, and the Pi started working funny, and I had some VS Code that I'd been working on, and it wasn't saved properly, so so I fixed that all up. But just segueing off what John was saying, I have the ROS interface to topics, and so I have a piece of code, a node just that supports this particular interface, and it was subscribing to the battery status topic, which is a standard ROS topic that I create by reading my battery voltage and current. And then it would pull out the battery voltage and send it over to the watch as RV in the RV format to send it. And it was showing up on the watch. I went, "Yay! It worked!"
Awesome.
Yeah. And but I think I have my demo working. Let's see if I screwed up or not. Let's see. So you have to pin me to see my mess here. But I'm going to start it. Did it again.
Right now, we can just see your ceiling. So
Yeah.
Work in progress here. So once it starts traveling, I'll show it on the computer. So you should be able to see it moving.
Yep. Uh-oh. Oh, phew.
Not very good at this. So it's over there now, and it should show should come back to this corner here.
It's the Blair Witch demo.
Oh, there it is. And so it's back within a centimeter or so of where it started. So that's pretty good.
Now, hey, Mike, you need to be aware.
Huh?
You need to be aware that you pick a point on your robot, okay, that you say that's whatever you're going to measure from. Okay, so when you measure that point, so in this case, you would be 90 degrees off, and you would end up with some error there.
unless it was the center of the robot.
Well, it's got to be above an edge, something we can,
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to add another command that rotates.
Yeah, you need. I'm just telling you so you don't get surprised. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Have it do that last 90-degree turn, and it should end up in the same pose that it started at.
Yeah.
Well, there's another way of doing it too, but
It's not natural,
works
but
too.
I can make it do a 90-degree curve,
Yep.
I think.
So Mike, that was the Foursquare demo, right?
I think it's called Four Corner, but yeah.
That should be some kind of star.
Yeah, that's a gold. That's a goldie.
Yeah.
So question, in the competition, are the walls there or is it on an
No,
open
there's
floor?
it's on open floor.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I kind of
Gold
thought.
star for Mike.
So I just scaled it to my space here. This
Yeah.
little thing is taking up all my space, so everything gets scaled to that. And
Right, but the point is you're not using SLAM on the walls to orient yourself.
oh no, I turned that all off. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just free running. Yeah. So I turned off all the SLAM because it would just not make it work as good.
Yeah, well, it's nice, Mike.
Yeah.
That's very
Really?
cool.
You're going to be a strong competitor on June.
Yeah, I
I
just got to
reckon.
get it to run a little faster and a little more accurately. Yeah.
And are you going to try and do 5-spot as well, Mike?
I'm giving up on that.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
that looked pretty tough.
I want to say Mike was the only contender, so that means we're dropping 5-star spot because that's what we said we would do. We said if we got to here and nobody was competing, it's out of there.
Yeah.
But we'll once you do all of these, you'll probably want to do something like that. Do you know what I mean? I think the retrieval one and the 5-spot are a little more challenging than the other ones. So that sounds good.
Because these things are sort of the same thing, just differently.
Yeah.
And that's completely different.
Yeah, they were meant to help a person progress. So, first he's got to make the robot go straight. Then he's got to be able to make the robot go to waypoints and so forth. That was those two. And we might want to think about adding another indoor competition at the end of the year, maybe in December or something. It's an idea. We'll see how it is when, if there's any interest at all.
Mm-hmm.
By that time, I think Pat will be totally stir crazy. He'll be willing to do something. Snow. More snow.
They're calling for snow tonight.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's we had a thunderstorm around supper, and now they're calling for 2-3 centimeters of snow overnight.
Oh wow.
We were up in Blue Mountain in central Ontario this weekend, and they had snow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like 80 here, and I think it rained a little bit right at sunset. It's been doing that every day this week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pat, how many minutes of summer are you expecting this year?
All of them. Actually, it gets fairly warm here. Our July is typically around high 20s to mid 30s.
Oh,
So
30
not
would be really, really hot.
So 30 is hot for us. It's 35. We're dying.
Yeah.
So that's how you can tell the Southerners from the Canadians.
We're talking centigrade, right?
38 degrees here. We're laying dead on the sidewalk.
Yeah, but the other thing is, when it's plus 10 out, which is like 50 degrees Fahrenheit, we're still wearing t-shirt and shorts.
Yeah, exactly. When I go south, we were there in the winter, and it was 32 degrees in the morning. There's there's a layer of skim of ice on the puddles, and everybody's wearing parkas, and we had a flannel shirt on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Work is interfering with roboting. I'm trying frantically, but I just got kicked up north Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. And so that's cutting into robot time again. But I'm working on it. I did have a question for you guys if you were done with presenting.
Yeah, I didn't have anyone else in the queue, so I think we're into open mic.
Okay, well, I have a question about a buck converter. So I'm going to share, I don't know, window, share. So I have one of these, basically just a little buck converter, step down, and I'm looking at running it from 11.1 volt, three cell LiPo to about 6 volts. And they say this thing is supposed to be good for 4.5 continuous.
I wouldn't believe that.
Yeah, so I'm not quite sure I believe it.
Yeah. I might believe too.
Yeah, so I'm wondering, do you think something like this can run a couple of those TT motors?
Yeah, they don't take much.
Yeah, they've got a stall current of 2.8 amps each, but they don't, they're not nowhere near stalling. They're just running.
Wait a minute, whoa! You're saying the yellow TT motors, right?
Yeah, yellow TT motors.
I thought their stall was something like 600 milliamps.
No, the ones I'm using.
Personally, I think that you should have no trouble running those. I use not that buck converter, but another buck converter in my systems to bring the 18 volts down to what I need, and I don't have any.
Okay.
I have 12-volt motors.
So they're 6-volt motors, and they got a stall current of 2.8 amps. They've got a no load current of 0.17 amps.
Yeah. Well. Okay.
I don't think in general, unless you're constantly stalling your motors, you're not going to have any trouble running those off one of those converters, because you'll probably be under 2 amps for both motors under normal or operating stuff.
That's what I would guess as well. I didn't do a load check on them, but what's happening is I'm running them off of the 11.1 volts, and I'm so low on my output signal going to the motors. So basically, if I say between 0 and 100%, and I want to go 10 centimeters per second, well, I'm outputting 8 or 9% of my pulse width modulation duty. So
yeah,
it's pretty low. To do that. So I'd rather be, somewhere in the middle, whatever.
Yeah,
Let's
that
do
makes
30%,
sense.
10 centimeters.
yeah. If you run it at 6 volts, you'll be able to use a much higher duty cycle.
Yeah, and that's where I would like to be, so that normal running, I would be at 50% or 50 to 70% duty cycle on it instead of very low.
Yeah, one of the things you can do, you have one parameter that you can do to change where you are in that, and that is your wheel size. Okay.
Yeah. But I am matched. So when I say go 10 centimeters per second, I am going fairly close, 10 centimeters per second.
Yeah. But you're only saying you're only at 9% on your.
I shoot 9% of my power when I'm running that low. So, one thing is if I want to go slow, I'm not able to go much slower than that.
Yeah.
Because of the 11.1 volts, I think. So if I drop that down to 6 volts or so, I should be able to get a little better into the power curve to be able to run.
There's something when you're finished. When you're finished, Pat, I want to show something that I found to be very useful.
I am finished.
Okay.
Do they have? Could I ask one question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Do they have efficiency curves for the converter? Do they show like?
It's Amazon. No.
Oh, okay. Yeah, a lot of times they.
Being a switching regulator, I would assume it's above 85%.
Yeah, most of them. Yeah, so it's not going to dissipate a lot of power. It looks like they provided
it's better than a linear where I'd be dissipating half the power.
Oh yeah. Anyway, a lot of them are kind of designed for like 12-volt output, and at that output and a certain load current, it'll have like the maximum efficiency. So you're not really dissipating a lot of power in the MOSFET that or not the MOSFET, the control IC. So
Yeah.
yeah.
What I've done is I've added a heatsink.
Yep.
And to try, although the heatsink is, I don't know if you can see that, the metal base is on the circuit board. So
Yeah.
I thought about putting the heatsink on the bottom of the circuit board.
Okay. Yeah. It seems like some of the designs, they do that instead of on the top part, because you have to get through the plastic to dissipate the heat. So
when you look at the bottom of the circuit board, there isn't a lot of a lot of vias going through the board or anything where you can see it conducting heat to the back of the board.
Yep. Yep.
So
yeah. Anyway, okay. Go ahead, Doug.
Well, I had a 5-volt regulator I had tried. It was fixed at 5 volts, and it wasn't enough to run the motor driver. So the motor driver is rated from, I forget, it's 6 to 12 or 6 to 16 volts or something like that.
Oh.
And so at 5 volts, it just wasn't powering anything.
Yeah, I think the TB6612 is like 6.5 volts or something minimum. And then 13, I think 13.5 for the upper
Yeah,
voltage.
so it's an L298 on this board I'm using.
Oh, okay. Yep.
So I think it needs 6 volts minimum. And so there is a voltage regulator as well on that board that is powering some 5-volt IO. And so it's not enough. It wasn't enough to drive a servo.
Yeah, the 298 drops about 1.5 volts when it's passing through.
Mm.
Yeah. So I'm not too worried about the efficiency. It's like you say, the TT motors generally aren't a lot of current through those. And the boards are fairly cheap I'm using. If I burn it out, I burn it out.
Yeah. Pat, I'm looking at the Adafruit small motor test curves for the TT motors at 1/48th gear ratio. And the most power I see at half voltage is about 1.5 watts. So that's 3 watts at 5 volts. So that's 600 milliamps draw. So I don't think you should have a problem with those.
Yeah, but it isn't the Adafruit motor. It's DF Robots motor, which has the encoder on the back of the motor.
Yeah, they're testing a yellow TT motor, and I don't know that I would call that an Adafruit motor. That's bought on AliExpress everywhere.
Yeah, the yellow TT motors, they're fairly cheap. But
yeah, is that not the one you're using?
No.
Oh, okay. All right. Sorry.
So I'll share again if you want. I'll just show you the page.
You may have the beefy DF robot version there.
I do. It's a beefier. It's a DF robot. Comes. I don't know if there's a better picture of it. You can see the encoder on the end.
Yes.
And so, like I say, off their specs, they're showing no load of 0.17 amps, and then a max stall current, so a locked rotor current.
Yeah.
2.8.
Yeah, that's actually quite high.
So that's microscopic compared to what I'm used to.
But for a yellow TT motor, that's pretty high.
That's what I thought as well. These seem to be higher. I don't know what the rated torque. So if you look at the rated torque, it's 0.2 kilograms force per centimeter, and the stall is 4 times that much. And so I don't know what the regular torque is on a yellow TT motor in comparison. So that would possibly explain the higher stall current.
Probably if you go to the maximum stall torque, the gears just melt, you know.
Question for Kareem. Are you coming to the meeting on Saturday and expecting to do soldering work?
Well, I've already desoldered the connector, so I sent an update in the electronics. Those two components are now desoldered. The board is still a bit of a mess. And I don't know how much hope I have for it, but I was sort of planning to offer to do the that test you wanted to do live here. Of just powering, but I lost my USB power only mini adapter thingy. It's around here somewhere, but.
So do you want to tell the story for those who haven't followed it on the Discord?
Oh, so there's so I'm a stupid boy. I managed to burn up an Oak D camera. I found it in a box from maybe a year ago. This is the full size Oak D, and I plugged it in to my robot after measuring the the input that was going into it. So it was it was plugged into a wall wart that I measured at about 12 volts, and I had a 13.1 volt or 13.2 volt battery coming out of the robot, and just didn't really pay attention to the documentation or anything like that, and plugged it in, and it just zapped. So all of the magic smoke got let out, and it turns out I should have not trusted that one of my robot kids probably just plugged in a random adapter at some point. And as far as I can tell, it was fine. Like, it probably hadn't actually been turned on. But it was a 5 volt. Needed to be a 5 volt input, and I burned up whatever the regulator thing was. I think Paul was identifying it as a Zener diode. Yeah. And it zapped the board pretty well. So I posted the whole. I was hoping to have, like, if not slam, at least video on the P3AT robot that I'm recovering. An output from that camera to show tonight. But my weekend went a different way, and now I guess the only hope is that there's maybe a slim possibility that the camera might still work if it's powered only from USB-C, which I could have done all along. I could have just done USB-C, and I should have. Apparently, the extra power is only for certain cases when you're really maxing out your whatever your the current is from whichever computer or microcontroller you're plugging it into. So,
Great. Are you going to be there Saturday?
It is my plan to be there. It's just 10 a.m. right?
Can you bring your robot? That would make a great show and tell. The last time I saw it, it was covered in dust and panels kind of all bent up, and
yeah, I'd love to see that show.
Yeah, I'll bring it.
I'd love to see it.
Will do.
Okay.
And if you get to a point and you find the right adapters where you can power that camera off of USB-C, I'd love to see, like, if it does anything.
Yeah, I'm kind of concerned because there's some very weird damage to some of the traces under the portions that got hot, and and it's so fine. Like, I'm having trouble even just imaging it with my little desktop microscope, and so it does look like some traces that we're going to. I think it's got a version of the B&O IMU on it.
What is it, the 85?
I think it's the 85, yeah. And some of the traces that are going to that were routed right under the diode. Not connected, but they got pretty fried.
Yeah.
So.
Well, you can scratch the photo mask off the top of the traces on either side of where they go under the diode, and check
Mhm.
continuity.
And also solder a
Oh,
wire.
they're actually physically like broken. I can
Oh,
you
they
can
like
tell.
peeled off of the
oh,
peeled off of the board.
okay.
Yeah, it's a no go. Those are definitely damaged.
All right.
I don't know if it'll disturb the everything. It'll certainly yeah. I don't know if it was power that was also routed to one of the cameras. It's possible that it was going to one of the stereo cameras.
Mm.
So
I think
we'll
it's.
see.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's not.
that's taps. In case you didn't recognize it.
I suspected that was taps.
So I got my IMU telemetry working. If you want to see it,
Yeah.
if you just pin my window here, let me just push run here, and there we go. So as I'm rotating, I've got the IMU in my hand here, and as I'm rotating, you can see the heading down near the bottom. If this thing would actually focus on the screen, you can see the heading is changing as I rotate it.
Cool. Very cool.
So that's kind of neat. Working. So now I can get back to working on RAWs. See if I can get that out and back quick trip mission running now.
Yeah, I have a quick question. Those of you that are using the ST time of flight sensors, the VL53L0X on Arduino, whose library are you using?
I have a MicroPython library for it, but not an Arduino one.
An Arduino? There are about 7 or 8 registered with Arduino.
Yeah.
The 3 big ones, of course, the common supplier units plus others. I just wondered what other people are using.
Yeah, so you realize with the L0X, you can't do the, they don't have a shutdown line, and you can't assign the I2C address in software. With the L0X, you can only do that with the L1X or the 6180.
Sure, but what I want to do is get one working.
Yeah, well, if you want to get one working, yeah, it's.
So no thoughts on the best library?
Well, okay, when I was playing with that Tom a long time ago, there were 2 main libraries. There was the Adafruit and the Pololu. And I actually preferred the Pololu, but I can't tell you why, and I don't know if I'd still think that now, but that when I was playing with that. There is a video. If you go through our archives, there's a one where I demonstrated when they first came out, and I showed some information. So if you go back through DPRG clips, and I tell you what, it's probably easier to go through the website. All right, just go through the website and do it under my name and see where I presented, and it'll be one of those. That's probably the easiest way to find it. And then you want to look at the YouTube video.
Got it. I'll do that.
Okay.
Anybody else using them?
Well, on my robot, I'm using the VL53L5CX from the SparkFun library.
Yeah.
It works pretty good. It works good.
Okay. All right. I was going to use the DF robot library, but it doesn't, it requires that if I want to know status, I've got to test it separately. They don't embed status information in the distance response. Pololu does do.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Let's see. Ding, ding, ding. Oh, I wanted to show you guys an instrument. If you're not aware of it, I found it to be extremely useful for all sorts of stuff. Once you start using it, you find more uses for it and more uses for it. And so if you'll pin me, because I'm not going to share. Okay, it's this little module right here. This is a constant current load right here. And it's great, its primary purpose is testing batteries and power supplies. But anytime you need to put a constant load on something, this is a very useful, and I want to say it's $15, but I don't remember. I'll try and find and put a link in, but it's pretty, if you see it, you can probably find it pretty fast. So if you just look for constant current load.
How do you connect to it?
Okay, that's the nice thing about this particular unit. It has a USB-A, a USB micro, a USB-C, and it has a terminal two block. Mm-hmm. So, I've made all sorts of little connectors and stuff to go on it. And that wasn't a good one, but like here's my one that I used with LiPo batteries. So,
what sort of power rating does it have, Doug?
Oh, good. I knew you were going to ask me. Give me a second and I'll tell you.
Okay.
I can find the box. I just had the instructions out, so now they're roaming around here on my desk somewhere.
Yeah, those things. I mean,
it's actually quite good. 35 watts.
Wow.
And I've pushed it right up to 35 watts for a long time and no problem.
Wow.
Now, the biggest problem with this module is that it's not self-powered. Otherwise, it takes its a load, so it runs everything off of it, and it reports the standard voltage, amp hours, watt hours, amps. And it does. I usually look at volts and amps, and so that's why I can evaluate a power supply pretty quickly with this thing. All right, so the lowest voltage you can go to, I think, is 4. So that's one disadvantage of this one. There's another one that overcomes that. This one right here, and this one. You can see that you have to supply power through a jack right there. Okay, now this one has a few nice features. I believe it does a true Kelvin contact, so if you wanted to go that far. And it's let me see if I can figure out how many watts this is. It's more watts.
Kareem has one of those with a camera on it.
Yeah, but he can't change it. His is always the same.
That's cruel. Poor Kareem.
This was one use only.
Yeah. So it'll go up to 5 amps. Now, I don't see a wattage on this little piece of paper. Oh, maximum power is 60 watts. So this one's 60 watts. All right. Now, if I was only going to, in actuality, when I'm using them, I have both, right? This is the one I almost always use.
So refresh my memory. A Kelvin contact. What do they have? Separate sense wires that go to the end or something?
I believe you measure the voltage inside of the current, I believe, or the other way around. So it's so you cancel out contact resistance.
Okay.
Okay. So now I wanted to say one thing that my testing has really proven to me. I've been following Pi supplies, like Pi 3s, Pi 4s, Pi 5 supplies. both the officials and alternate, vendors. And I can tell you, Pi 3 supplies suck. That's why you always got the low voltage. And Pi 4s, they were better, but they were never really quite up to, they were not really perfectly what they said they were. But the Pi 5s, there they've gone to where it has a quick charge or PD type of alternatives. And what they've done is they've made a special mode in the PD protocol just for Raspberry Pi, which allows it to put 20, 5 amps at 5.1 volts or 27 watts. And I've only had one, which I suspect was really a Pi 4 supply because of the way it behaved, but it was sold as a Pi 5. But all the Pi 5 ones will literally give you 5.1 volts at 5 amps at the terminal or at the USB plug. So a lot of these things, they'll tell you that, oh, it's a 4 amp supply, but they're talking about if you have no wire on it. It's, if you come right out of the module, but they have a lead. Well, the lead will drop your voltage way down. And that's why you get all those low voltage stuff. But anyway, I'm just saying, so don't buy any Pi 4 supplies. Just buy Pi 5 supplies because they truly are a step up. And they should say that they got PD protocol, and they should say they have gallium nitride semiconductors. Okay, just so you know. But anyway, like I say, once you start have the ability to put a load on something, like this buck supply, what brought this up was Pat's buck supply. You see, I could tell him exactly what his capabilities of his buck supply would be with this thing probably.
So this, it's funny you should say that. Just springboarding off of what you're showing,
Yeah.
Doug, this is my home-built load of the same kind of thing, with a fan on a heat sink and a 3-pin regulator that draws an amount of current. But if you would post a link,
I'll get it. If I don't get it tonight, I'll put it on the Discord.
Okay, because this is obviously kind of cheesy. But to your point about dropping voltage on the wire, back in December, I was getting those low voltage alerts on my Pi, and so in the last week, I finally got around to measuring the voltage at the Pi and found that despite having 5.1 volts on the terminal block and only about 10 inches of USB cable, I was only getting 4.7 on the Pi. So I was losing 0.4 volts. And the cable that I'd used, that I'd sacrificed to get my 10 inches of USB-C back to the terminal block, was the fattest USB cable that I could find. But when I stripped the sheath off, it had like 24 gauge or maybe 26 gauge wires inside it. They were really pitiful. And so when I snipped the end off close to the connector and wired 18 gauge wires back to the terminal block, same 10 inches, and now I'm only losing 40 millivolts, not 400. So made a huge. So anyway, thanks for that tip about the voltage drop in the wires. I saw that in spades.
Well, here's something else if you're messing with that sort of stuff that you might want to look at, is these, if I can get this little plastic package open. These are very inexpensive. How do I show these? This is a USB 3 little termination. It's great for if you want to add power to a Pi or something from another source. They have both male and female. So and they're very inexpensive, a couple dollars for 10.
Is that a solder connection on the end?
Huh? Yeah.
Just a solder connection for power and
Yeah.
ground?
There's actually 4 pins. There's a data pin, but the data pins, but you don't, if you're just doing power, you don't use those.
Right.
You know, and so
You could put a link to that, Doug. I think that'd be pretty interesting.
okay, I'll have to, that one is, since I bought it from Amazon, I should have a link. Problem is the link's probably 5,000 characters long. Trying to find the short link is hard.
I have some that I bought from Allie.
Yeah.
Same sort of thing.
Yeah, I might have got these from Allie. But now you might ask, well, oh, John's got that USC part, and it's only 3.7 volts. And I told you that this could only go down to 4. So how do you measure that guy? Well, you could technically use this guy, or if you wanted to go super cheap, you can. Here is a current supply where the current is actually controlled by whatever resistors you put on the end. And so this one happens to be, if you notice the little connector on the end, is being used for, this one is actually being used for 3.3 cell, 3.7 cell volt cells, you know, like that 1000 milliwatt thing, just to make sure you didn't get gypped and that you really got what you think you're getting. So there's a couple of, you know, different ones, but this is the one I use the most. Yeah.
So what do these connectors do? I see John posted a link and they've got a chip on them.
It's basically just a USB connector. It's a USB-C connector that you can solder, you know, a big, you know, like an 18 gauge or whatever wire to provide power to whatever. So like on my Robo Magellan robot, I'm going to be powering my Raspberry Pi and my USB hub with a pair of those coming off of my big 5-volt regulator that I have on the board, the 5-volt 8-amp one from Palalu. So I'm going to be using a couple of connectors on the board, and you know, some probably 20 gauge wire running up to provide you know, soldered onto a couple of those connectors.
Yeah.
Oh, so they've got like the data terminals on one side and the power on the other.
Yeah, and the second one that I posted just has actually it's got the data and the power as well. It just doesn't have the chip thing.
Yeah.
But I mean, they're dirt cheap. You can buy like
Right.
10 packs or 20 packs or 50 pack. I mean, a 50 pack is $3.73 Canadian. I mean, they're ridiculous.
Yeah.
So
And
I bought some of them for other USB sizes as well. Just
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to use one for micro USB, and this one was actually made to be inserted and provide into a. This was made to be inserted into a USB A and change gender, I guess you'd call it, or change the output. And then I would end up using some weird thing like this, you know, where you stick it in, and that. All in the past now. Now I just use these guys.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
So
what is USB-C, that little connector? What is it rated for current? Is it like 5 amps?
I'm not sure. It's complex in the sense that you know, like the PD and Quick C, what they do is they actually use that and to give you the quick charge. They up the voltage to either 9, 12, or 15. I'm not sure what the highest is, but I want to say it's
15 or 19 or something. Yeah.
Something like that. And it's really a wattage that they allow you to do. Okay, so but the 5 volt is always, because it's trying to be incompatible with other 5 volt previously made stuff, is always 10 watts, I think, two amps.
2 amps. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, oh, that's another thing about this thing that's really cool. He has quick charge. He doesn't have PD. If I find one with a PD protocol on it, I'd snap it up. But this does have quick charge 2 and quick charge 3 protocols. So you can see if what if the guy says, well, this charger has quick charge on it, you can test it to see if it really does. So
I thought Doug's point about the electronic load was useful. I had a use for one several years ago, so I built one.
yeah.
This one's good for about 24 volts and 3 amps.
Mhm.
And it's good down to about 1.5 volts at 1 amp.
Yeah.
There's an article. I wrote an article about it, and I posted the link to the article in the
Yep.
chat if anybody wants to know a lot more about it.
Yeah.
Because it's Arduino based, it will also allow capturing a lot of the data that it's processing in order to be able to produce some curves from its performance.
Yeah, this one actually has a serial port on it, but I don't think you're getting much information out of it because I've seen people who have tried to work with it, and I think all I can get is voltage and current.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't even think they can get a timestamp. So, you know, that's. But anyway, there's probably newer and greater ones, and there's also some that have horrible. The ones with the big round fans and heat sinks. A lot of those have. There's good ones and there's absolutely dangerous ones. So you have to, before you buy one of those, and they're more expensive, by the way, I would suggest that you look at it in great detail to make sure that you're getting the good one and not the bad one. Yeah. They look alike, you know, except for subtle things. Yeah. Anyway, I thought I'd share that because, like I said, it's been extremely useful for me, and you know, like I say, it's surprisingly how often you'll use it. You know, I'm not saying you're going to use it every day, but you'll use it more than you think you're going to use it.
I have a really interesting tool that I bought a long time ago that I use a lot, especially when I'm working on battery powered stuff like this URC. So this is a USB ammeter basically with a screen. And if you plug it into a USB power supply, you get a nice display here. And then I've got a USB port on the end. So if I take like my URC here with the power switch off, so it's not using the battery, and I plug it into here, then you can see that that's taking, you know, the second measurement down is basically amps. So it's 82 milliamps that it's taking with the screen on. And then after 60 seconds, the screen will shut off and that'll drop down to 40 milliamps kind of thing. But it's really useful for, you know, it's not perfect, but it's really useful for measuring current draw of small USB type devices.
I've looked at those.
Yeah, and it'll show you milliwatts and voltage and milliamp hours over time and all that sort of stuff. So
yeah, this one will too. It'll show you this, but it's not as slick.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely a slick output.
Nice.
Yeah. So that's kind of a useful tool, and you can plug anything into it. And what brought this on is one of the things it comes with is one of these constant power drain things. So you can just plug that into it and tune it to set the value that you draw with this USB plug.
Mm-hmm.
So
yep.
Yeah, I'm assuming everybody has one of those, a USB monitor.
Yeah, I got one.
Yeah, those ones are much simpler than this one.
Yeah.
Which
Right.
is nice in some cases, but I have
I like
one of those too.
The problem with those I found is that they use those you have to be looking exactly at it to get the screen to see what's on the screen. If your head's tilted a little bit and you're looking at it, it'll just be completely black.
Yeah, this one isn't too bad. You can.
That one must have a black light or something. Mine probably the cheapest one you can buy.
It's probably got an OLED or something
Yeah,
display or whatever. So it's
mine's got pretty good viewing angle and it's color. So
yeah.
So I think the answer there is not to get one that's gray and black. Make sure it's got some sort of color.
Yeah, this one has a little, like a dial button here that you can shift back and forth and push, and it has a bunch of, like, you can switch to a graphical display where it'll actually graph out power usage and stuff as it's running, and so that's kind of neat. A bunch of extra features for a bunch more money, but I find it useful.
Well, like I said, it definitely, a current load turns out to be useful for a lot of things in this, because you're always trying to figure out, like, I used the Hobby Wing battery eliminator, EBC. Is it EBC? Electronic battery eliminator.
BEC.
BEC, battery eliminator circuit.
Yeah, and I've used that for years. And, so I got one, put it on this thing, and I found out the specs are like, okay, they might do that momentarily, but they're definitely not going to be able to pull that current for long term. And because the nice thing about it is the modules will, if you overheat them, they'll shut down and you never destroy one. But, you don't want it to overheat and stop working while you're doing something. So I still will use them, but I just now have a much more realistic knowledge of how much they can actually supply. So, yeah, because they were, that was my little go-to module that I've used for years, and they seem to work really well. They just don't pull the current they say that they're going to allow you to pull.
Yeah, I've used this one for years and years. This is the Polalu 5-volt 5-amp one. It works great for powering a Raspberry Pi, and then on my new one I'm using this bigger one that they have, which is like 5 volts 8 amps if you're powering it off 12 volts. So it's a nice little board as well.
I love Polalu parts.
They're fantastic.
They're just sometimes a little rich.
Well, they're not cheap, but they work, and you're not getting crap. It's built, it's made in America, so you're getting the real deal.
Yep, I agree. Yeah, I'm totally with you on that one, John.
I spend enough money on these robots. I don't want to use $37 voltage regulators that I got off Valley.
Yeah. And that brings up something. Well, no, I'll leave that on Discord. I was going to say, I'll try to find a link if I can find one. Has anybody found the link? Okay, yeah, I'll slow look for it. That was just a few. I just wanted to bring that up because I thought that's been surprisingly useful. Here's my little do-ad. You see, it's gray on gray. I don't want that. You want like something like John's got, or Ray, something that's got colors.
So did you guys see the video of Boston Dynamics Atlas, his last hurrah with the blooper reel?
Yeah, and their new video too that shows the replacement.
Should I play that or is everyone seen it? Everyone, probably this group's all seen it, so it's probably old news.
Go ahead. I haven't. So. suppose I could watch it offline, but anybody else in the queue?
Nope, we're in open mic.
Okay.
Are you guys seeing this?
Okay,
in
yeah, I'll go after this.
At certain points, have a look when he falls over, you see hydraulic fluid squirting out of his knee.
Yeah, I don't know if this is worth watching. I'm getting about 1 frame a second.
Oh, really? What about it? What about other people? Is this coming
It's
through?
pretty jerky.
Okay, maybe it's not worth watching. All right, I'll just post the link.
Yeah, that's probably better.
I like the one where he gets laser eyes and blows up the guy that annoys him. So
Yeah.
Yeah, this is be real quick. I found something on the Adafruit's website about the BNO 055 that now that we're getting all these ESP32 users, you might just take a look at that. And let's see, entire screen. I'll show you in a second. Okay, gyroscope. Can you see that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, saying the BNO 055 I squared C violates the I2C protocol. And so they're saying it doesn't work well with the ESP32, the ESP32S3, NXP. I'm not even certain who makes the RT 1011. And it doesn't work well with I squared C multiplexers. So those are the ones that they're recommending, the SAMD 51, not even the SAMD 21. I didn't notice that at first, but the 51, RP2040, and the S2 F4s, and I forget who makes the NRF parts. Anyway.
Ray, that sounds like damning with faint praise. Operation with these is more reliable. Not
More
great,
reliable.
but more.
Yeah, I mean, the BNO 055 is kind of really old news.
Yeah.
It has some issues internally as well. The Adafruit this is the board that I'm using, which is the BNO 085. Which has apparently fixed all of those issues. So it doesn't have any problems like that.
Yeah, and I think it's like $10 less, isn't it?
I don't know, but it's a fantastic IMU. It's fully stabilized internally, and it very, very low drift. A couple degrees over like 30 minutes. Kind of thing, if it's sitting still anyway.
Yeah. So do you use the robot or RVC mode?
Yeah, it's just easier. I mean, it transmits 100 hertz over a UART. It's just easier. It gives me all the information I need. So that's all I really care about. I mean, I'm, it's nice to have pitch and roll, but I'm really concerned with yaw.
Yep.
And I get that at 100 hertz, and what else do you need?
Say again which model that is.
It's the BNO 085.
Oh yeah, okay. Now I thought that's what you said. That's the one I'm using. Okay, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Ray, you're still presenting.
Yeah, you're right. I am.
And okay, so I have a question then for you, because I haven't been doing actually hands-on robot stuff in a while, but the issue I've been getting with my BNO 085 was that it was giving me, so let's say I would complete one 360-degree revolution, it would actually then tell me that, hey, I just turned 361 degrees. And I don't remember the exact number, but basically there was some, not sort of a fixed offset, but basically there was something off where it would tell me always, you know, when I turn it a certain number of degrees, and I had ways of confirming exactly how many degrees I turned. Because let's say I do 20 full revolutions, right? It would tell me, you know, instead of 7,200 degrees, I just turned 7,250 degrees. And so it was fairly predictable. I was able to compensate for it. I could never really explain why it was doing that. Are you seeing, do you ever see something weird like that where it's giving you just an angle that's a little too big? I don't remember if it was too big of an angle or too small of an angle, but it was some weirdness like that.
I've never put it on anything that is consistent like that. So, and yeah, so I don't really know. I'm going to be feeding on my outdoor rover. I'm going to be feeding it into what kind of an unscented Kalman filter, along with the GPS and the odometry and everything else, to get back, you know, rough XY position. So I assume that it will take care of things like that, you know, over time automatically.
I see.
I don't know. Yeah, I've never experienced it doing that.
The other thing I noticed is vibrations were impacting it quite a bit when I had the LiDAR, the RP LiDAR cranked up to a certain number of scans per second, right? It's a rotating thing there. That would cause on my small, low mass robot, you know, a little bit of vibration. And that would really impact the IMU negatively. So just FYI.
Yeah, I haven't actually used it on the robot yet. I've got a big 2-foot mast hanging off the back of my robot, just a carbon fiber tube that I've got it mounted on top of. So it'll be up there and probably a fair amount of vibrations and stuff. But once again, I'm not expecting it to be a perfect sensor. So
yeah.
I'll take from it what I can get and just throw it into the filtering algorithm.
Now, who makes that sensor? Is there something in it from Bosch and then combined with other things? Did you know by any chance?
It's a Bosch sensor, the BNO055. I mean, the software is written by some other company.
Okay. Now that's what I thought, right? Because I was Googling around the other day, and Bosch, I found one. They call it, and I would have to find it now, BMI something rather, where they call it specifically, you know, intended for robotic applications. It's specifically meant to even deal with things like vibration, which I've experienced issues with. So I can't find the model number now. But it was BMI something rather.
Yeah, haven't heard of that one.
Now I just don't know if that's the same. Because I see a BMI 085 on the Bosch website, but that's not the one I looked at. Yeah, I'll put the number in the chat when I find it, but I just found it interesting that they had one in their lineup that was specifically advertised for, to be good for robotic applications. Oh yeah, BMI, M as in Mary, BMI 088.
Is that a different physical sensor?
That I can't tell you. I haven't investigated that enough, but it is one specific. It looks like, I think the answer is yes. It is a specific sensor with specific specs. And again, the keywords that struck me was, apart from its high vibration, robust, well, temperature stability, the usual thing, but it's, meant for robotic applications.
That's worth looking.
It's supposedly the same sensor inside.
Yeah, it looks like they're just using a mechanical, like some kind of low pass filter on the accelerometer to suppress the high frequency vibrations and that sort of thing.
You could do what the drone community does and mount it on
rubber. Yeah.
Yeah, mounted on rubber cushion.
Yeah. Anyway, I got to take off. It's bedtime here.
Okay.
Late.
Bye, John.
See you guys next week.
Yep. Hey, Paul.
Yes,
you put in Discord that you had seen RTKs for, I want to say, a certain model. You said from U-Blot for $125 or something like that.
Yeah, then after you called me on that, I corrected myself because the what I was actually seeing, I just Googled F9P and DigiKey came up with an F9P for $125, and turns out that it's
just a
bare
module.
chip.
Yeah,
it's not a circuit board. So, the cheapest entire circuit board I could find was still the SparkFun $279 one.
Okay.
It's a little pricey, but.
Yeah. Did you find? You said is it RTK to go?
Yeah.
Did you find a station up there at Steve's house?
Yeah. Well, it's not at Steve's house, but
I know it's not at Steve's house, but
yeah.
I mean, could you get it to you?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's.
I was able to use it.
You were
at Steve's house, yeah.
Okay.
Using the standard one in Richardson.
Yeah.
Is that the U-Blot network, or is that something independent?
No. RTK to go.
Yeah. Is that free?
Yes.
Yep. Oh, that's cool.
But I thought it was more than like they recommended be less than 10 kilometers away, right?
That is the standard recommendation.
Yeah.
I have found that you can look up long baseline RTK, and you will get many different results of people studying longer runs, and I've certainly been able to get up to 20 kilometers.
Okay, cool.
You might get a faster, better fix, but I was able to get a true fix at about 18 kilometers, something like that. I think is how far it was.
So, Kareem, you're essentially using a phone, right? Continuously.
Using what?
You otherwise your RTK has a phone module on it, and you're just calling in. Is that what you're doing?
No.
A what? A what module? I'm getting my internet. I'm getting my corrections over the internet because it's RTK to go, right?
Okay. And so it's
I have a phone on my robot, or I have a router with like an LTE modem in it. I've done it various ways, and that's how I get the data, the correction data.
Is this something that ESP32 now would be able to handle?
I have not looked at trying to repacketize that kind of data corrections over ESP32 now. I think it probably, what's the byte limit on ESP32 now?
250.
In a packet, yeah. Bytes.
The correction data should be able to fit in that, I think. I'd have to double check it, but I think there's a possibility it would work.
That might
Yeah,
be that might be
they said,
interesting.
The packets
I thought
aren't that
the-
large, I don't think.
I thought the SparkFun guy said it was more like 500 bytes.
Was it? Was it that big?
I thought that's what I remember. That
It's
may
been a
not-
while since I wrote my my packet forwarder thing.
Yep. Okay, so Paul, you don't have a phone on your robot, do you?
but I used my phone. I used my cell phone, and I had the robot. I turned on the hotspot and had the robot hook up to the phone's hotspot. So then it got internet
okay.
through there, and
Yeah.
then I just used a ROS daemon that I got off the web that was an encrypt client, and it logged into, and you've got a few parameters you configure to tell it to which RTK to go station you want to connect to, and then it just does the rest and pumps the data into the ZF9P, and the ZF9P does the best, does the rest, does the all the RTK calculations.
Yeah. I've got I haven't actually tried this yet, but I got the SIG telemetry radios, the version 3, which is higher power. I don't know if this one, I want to say it's up to a watt of power, which is kind of, most of them are like a tenth of a watt. But there's, a receiver and a transmitter, and you're supposed to be able to, send RTK data from, say, like a base station to a rover.
Yeah, that'd be a point-to-point serial over radio link, basically, right?
Right. Yeah.
So you don't have to worry about TCP/IP or anything like that. It's just
Nope.
a one-to-one.
Yeah.
Just got to configure them.
Yeah. Had you used that before, Kareem?
I have used that before.
Okay.
It was
So
a
it worked
SIG
pretty good.
radio too. I don't think it was V3. I think it was like a couple years ago. So,
Yeah.
but it does work.
Yep.
Basically, any kind of point-to-point link, if you have your own base station, and if you can get it to clearly transmit the data, it's gonna work fine.
Yeah. Yeah, I had 2 of the R8 modules, and I tried it with Laura. It looked like I could get it into.
Laura's
forget which
right
one
at
is-
the minimum, probably, for the data rate you need.
Say it again.
Laura might be right near the minimum for data rate.
Yeah, I think it is. It looked like it. I forget which one's the best one. Is it RTK fix or float?
Fix. You want fix.
Fixed. Yeah, I think it would. I saw it go to float. I don't think I ever saw it go to fix. So
this is the RTK to go station list. There's a cluster of them in the
Right around
Dallas
Dallas.
area. And I think this is the one that Kareem is referring to.
VN1 is the one that I've
VN1.
used the most.
Sorry, say again?
VN1 is the one I've used the most.
Yep. And
there's one that shows up in Princeton every once in a while.
right, I think that's this one, Lucas. I when I went out to Steve's, I found that the one that I had been using wasn't available anymore, but the other one was, and I forget which way around it was. But anyway, both of them worked. They were more than 10 kilometers away, but they worked just fine.
Huh.
I can use VN1 from where I live in South Dallas, right on the border
Yeah.
of Duncan.
The thing is that what gets affected is your accuracy, but it doesn't degrade that quickly. So many people will say you can use it for 50 kilometers if you know, but it might be a little less accurate. But there's never any quantification of what a little less means. But I think that the thing to understand is that what it's doing is broadcasting the time delays between the satellites it's seeing and sending them over to your receiver. And the closer you and the time delays are affected by the ionosphere as it kind of like morphs and shifts around. And so the closer it is to where your rover is, the more those it's going to see the same thing. The further away, there's potentially some differences in how the ionosphere is affecting different satellite paths. But so it's going to be a gradual degradation. It doesn't drop off a cliff.
Yep. Anyway, I'm gonna try the SICK radios and see if they do any better than the LoRa setup that I had. So,
which radios are those?
I think it's Holy Bro is the brand, and SIK is just the name of one of their radios.
They're very big in drone telemetry.
Yeah.
Oh.
Anyway, I haven't tried that yet. It doesn't, I think the LoRa protocol can be a lot slower because they're, trying to make sure you have high data integrity and, so I think it just takes longer to transmit the same data through LoRa. It will go very far. I've, had a transmitter and receiver. Actually, the transmitter was, I forget which way was which, but I had one of them in my office here, and then my wife was driving around with the other one in the car, and it would go, pretty much all over my property, which I think the longest distance was like 1,500 feet. So it worked really well. I think I want to say it can go quite a ways below 100 dB, and it was only in the maybe 93 or so. So it could even go, further, but I'd have to go on other people's property to figure that out. So to get far enough away, but.
Is this SICK you're talking about, or LoRa?
LoRa, yeah. So worked really well. It didn't seem to have any issue coming through windows or brick walls or. But it is a a slower data rate. So I want to say these can do 57,600, I think, is what they usually are set up for. Baud rate. So, but hopefully I'll get a chance to check out those. There's another company that sells. I know SparkFun is one of the sellers of that. Where'd you get it go? And no, I want to say it's ArduCam, but it's not ArduCam. I can't think of who it is now. Oh, well. Oh, okay.
Oh, from 3DR. Yeah, I've got some of them tucked away from years ago.
Yeah, I can't think of what they're called now. Anyway.
Well, feels like we're losing energy here. What do you guys think? I think someone's snoring.
I think Chris is.
Chris nodded off.
Now, I was just touching my microphone boom here. I guess it's causing some noise.
Okay.
Good night, guys.
But it is getting late. Yeah.
All right.
All right. Good night,
All right,
guys.
thanks, everybody.
We'll
Bye.
see you. Thank you.
Bye bye.
Good night.